Well, let's get started. I'd like to start with a question. Think of someone in your life, someone you consider a genuinely good listener. Maybe not someone who gives you great advice, not someone particularly wise or experienced, just someone who, when you're with them, you really feel heard. How do you feel when you leave a conversation with that person? I ask this in workshops all the time. The answers are pretty consistent. People say things like clearer, calmer, more confident, more certain about what they actually think. Sometimes they say, like, I figured something out. Here's the thing, that person usually didn't say much. They didn't solve anything. They didn't give you anything you didn't already have. That's what this session is about. We've spent this entire semester building skills, the levels of listening, the discipline of silence, recognizing patterns, staying present, taming the advice monster, all of it in service of one thing. Listening is not a technique. Listening is not a precondition for good advice. Listening is, in itself, one of the most powerful things you can do for another human being. Carl Rogers spent 50 years studying what actually helps people change. He was a psychologist, one of the most influential of the 20th century. And what he found repeatedly was this: the thing that helped people was not his techniques, his interpretations, or his expertise. It was whether they felt truly heard. He described what he called emphatic understanding, entering the private world of the other person and understanding how it feels from the inside. Not evaluating it, not fixing it, not even agreeing with him, simply understanding it accurately enough that the person feels received. He wrote something that has stayed with me since the first time I read it. He said, when a person realizes he has been deeply heard, his eyes moisten. I think in some real sense, he is weeping for joy. It's as though he were saying, thank God, somebody heard me. Somebody knows what it's like to be me. That's not a small thing. That's one of the most fundamental human needs there is: to be known, to be received, to have someone who is genuinely present to your experience. And Rogers' research showed that when people had this experience, their thinking got clearer, their defensiveness dropped, they became more able to access their own insight. Not because of anything the listener said, but because of how they listened. A lady by the name of Nancy Klein made a claim in her research that I want you to sit with. The quality of a person's thinking is directly dependent on the quality of attention they receive. Not partly dependent, directly dependent. When you are truly, fully listening to someone with no agenda, no evaluation, no internal preparation of what you'll say next, their thinking actually improves measurably. They find ideas they couldn't find on their own. They access insights they didn't really know they had. And the moment your attention wavers, however subtly, their thinking contracts. They can feel it, not always consciously, but something shifts in how much of themselves they bring forward. This means your listening is not just courtesy, it's a cognitive resource that the people you're with are actually drawing on. Your presence enables their thinking. Your absence, even a micro absence, even the moment you start preparing your response, limits them. That reframe changes everything. You're not listening because it's polite. You're listening because your attention is literally a gift that enables the person in front of you to think better than they can on their own. Stephen Covey made a simple distinction that I find myself coming back to constantly. Most people, most of the time, are listening to respond. While the other person is talking, they're already preparing what they're going to say next, sorting the information, evaluating it, formulating their position, and just waiting for that little slither of a gap to enter into the conversation with their response. Listening to understand is different. It requires suspending the internal preparation long enough to genuinely enter the other person's frame of reference. Not to agree with it, but rather to understand it. The person you're listening to can feel the difference, not always in words they can articulate, but in how safe they feel to keep going, to say the harder thing, to find the real problem underneath the presented problem. In the case study presented for this session, you'll see this in action. A leader who is listening to respond produces a development. A leader who is listening to understand discovers what the person actually needs, and it turns out to be something entirely different. Most leaders don't intend to communicate that they're not listening, but certain habits reliably produce that experience in others. Completing sentences, even helpfully, signals that you've already understood and have moved on. The person delivering the message feels cut off, not received. Moving too quickly to solutions signals that the listening phase is over and that you've gathered enough information and are now ready to help. The person hasn't finished being heard. Physical distraction signals, eye contact, eye breaks, a glance at the phone, a body turning away, register in the nervous system of the person who is speaking. We are exquisitely sensitive to whether we have someone's full attention. The body always knows before the mind does. And introducing your own experiences too early, oh, I had something like that happen to me, can be connecting, but when it arrives before the other person feels fully heard, it redirects the conversation from them to you. None of these are bad intentions. They're habits, and habits can be changed. This is the final session of semester 1. 6 sessions ago, we started with the premise that most people aren't really listening. Not because they don't care, but because no one ever taught them what listening actually requires. We have built something together in this semester: radical attention, tactical attention, and silence, pattern recognition, full presence, the taming of the advice monster. And now this, the understanding that all of these skills exist in our service of one thing: making the person in front of you feel genuinely, fully, unreservedly heard. The experience of being heard is not incidental to good leadership. It is one of the most rarest things you can offer to people you lead. Most of them are not getting it anywhere else. And when you listen this way, you become someone who people trust with their real questions, not just political ones, not the ones they prepared, the ones that actually matter. Wednesday is our semester 1 closing community session. Come prepared to share one moment from the past 6 sessions where something shifted for you. A conversation that went differently because of the listening practice you've been building, or, it doesn't really have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, but it's real. Semester 2 starts next week. We move into powerful questions, which will be only as good as the listening that underlies them. Everything we've built this semester is the foundation. And like I said last week, remember this: whenever you feel like you're failing, you are just in the middle of succeeding. I'll see you on Wednesday. I look forward to hearing your stories.